With a used Porsche Taycan seeming like a better and better bargain with every day that passes, as the values of these things decreases faster than political popularity, it really is a good time to consider buying a used one of these. But what is it like in terms of reliability? Just what are these like to live with? How reliable are they? Can you use them regularly? What's the build quality like? We'll be addressing all of these questions in this video. Hi guys, my name is Tab. Thank you very much for tuning in. Hope you're all doing well. So, I've had this car for a while. Has it been reliable for me? And obviously, looking at this car is one thing. We've got to look at the entire picture, right? Understand the trends that are happening out there. So we will do that as well. We'll get into some detail there, look at some facts, look at some figures, look at some press posts, all of this helping us to make an informed decision as to whether or not this car, the Porsche Taycan, is reliable, and indeed if you should be forking out your hard-earned spondoolies on one of these if you're after one. And honestly, the values of these things now used, it's a bargain. So much car for your money, so much tech for your money. Don't pass up looking at one of these if you're in the market for a used car, and specifically a used EV right now versus that other one that begins with the big letter T. So, has my car been reliable? Let's at least start with that. Yes, absolutely. It has been pretty much faultless. The only things that I've had with this are a recall for a preventative measure. I think it's called the WNK1 service bulletin for the 12-volt battery, because that doesn't get topped up by the lithium ion, the big 93 kilowatt battery pack, as well as it should. So I was getting some PCM cannot operate because of low voltage or low battery. That is now fixed, that is now gone. And I understand prior to that, some people's 12-volt batteries were becoming completely flat and the car was being rendered useless. Yes, indeed, this car has a 12-volt battery in it, which is used to drive things like the locks, the PCM, all of the basic sort of running capability outside of the motors, etc., is run via that 12-volt system. Obviously, Porsche didn't invent a new one, reinvent the wheel, just copied it over from their existing cars, right, which are all ICE. But recall for that, and I've had the occasional error message pop up on the dashboard about the collision warning system, that it's no longer active. There's a fault with it, and you get this little sort of heart diagram on the dashboard to say that it's not working. That has only been a temporary pop-up once or twice this summer. I've not seen it again since, so we're looking good from that perspective. And everything else with the car has been absolutely spot on. There's been no other issues with the car. I am potentially starting to get a bit of a strange issue with the brakes when we get on to the hydraulic pads away from the regen braking when coming to a stop. It's not working as well as I'd expect, and I think looking at the forums, there's been a few other people with this issue, and it involves bleeding the brakes or just getting it checked out and reset by your local trusted Porsche service centre. But this car has been absolutely brilliant for me. Admittedly, I've only done 6,277 miles as of right now, but I see cars out there on Auto Trader with 40, 50,000 miles that seem to be doing just fine. So my car has been brilliant, and I have to touch as well on the build quality whilst we're in this car. The build quality of this car has been the best of any car I've ever owned in my life, hands down. Porsche are definitely onto something with the build quality of these. It's so smooth, feels so solid, the trim is perfect, nothing is too shaky. The only maybe minor gripe I could say is these controls here for the voice on the steering wheel are a little bit plasticky, perhaps, but I'm really struggling to find anything to pick at here. It is so well put together, no creaks, no rattles, no cracks, no bits that annoy you. It is just supremely well put together. So again, you know, looking at a used one of these for some seriously good money, you're going to get a lot of very well put together car for your buck. So The build quality of the car is absolutely sublime. I really cannot fault it, to be fair. And looking at the forums online and hearing other people's thoughts and comments, it is very much the same. Very much the same for them too. They love the build quality of the Taycan. It is very nice indeed. So we have to look at the wider picture though. It's very important to look at things holistically in this video to get a complete and accurate representation of this car in the wider marketplace, and it hasn't been without its issues, unfortunately. There's been a number of big recalls for this car issued, both out of America, that have been followed up by the dealers here in the UK as well. And some simple things like the collision warning system failing is one you should look up. Another one as well is the seat. Apparently the seat, moving the seats backwards and forwards, was causing an issue whereby it was severing the wiring loom, as far as I'm aware, and that was of course causing knock-on issues for things like the airbag system, some of the safety systems, etc. So there was a recall issued for that for a number of vehicles. There's been a recall issued for the rear view camera, which was cutting out and of course creating a back over issue, i.e. backing over something that you don't want. There's been other recalls as well issued for this car for welds that were forgotten in the factory for the bodywork. I think only a handful of cars affected with this one, but it did warrant a lot of cars being inspected. Don't forget this shares a platform with the e-tron GT, the J1 platform as it's known, and that is something that you might see on those cars as well, but we're focusing here specifically on the Taycan. So yes indeed, that has been quite an interesting thing to see recalled. Also, there's been various recall issues with the suspension as far as I'm aware, so I think there was an issue with the bags on some of these as well. And then additional issues as well with things like the seatbelt safety system. So a lot of these are safety related, unfortunately, which is why they're so serious to be put right, so important that they're put right. And of course, we can't ignore the huge issue that there has been. Now we're coming up to winter again with the heaters in these cars. A massive issue with the heater, the Webasto water heater in this car that's been failing and causing misery for hundreds if not thousands of Taycan owners. So that's the big one as well. And if you're looking for a Taycan and you're looking at a used one, my advice would be to get one if you can that you know this issue has been resolved. It has popped up and been resolved and fixed, because part of me thinks if it hasn't yet popped up in a Taycan, it is quite likely that it might pop up at some point and affect you. So you'd rather just get one where it's been done, where it's been sorted out, and where it is no longer going to present a possible issue. And it is an issue in winter. Your windows will mist up and you will no longer be able to drive the car. So, you know, quite a big one, to be fair. It's not just a luxury, it's a necessary. And then of course, very recently indeed, there was the battery recall issue. I think APB2 is the recall specifically, and that is quite a serious one because that results in water ingress into the battery, which can cause the battery to fail, or even worse, potentially present, as McLaren would put it, a thermal incident, or at least a risk of a thermal incident. So yes, the car has not been without its recalls. My advice is, if you are in the market for one of these, check out the history, check out what's been done, look up active service bulletins. You can search by the VIN number, work with the dealer, work with the third party that you might be buying it through to get that information and get it checked out online. See what service bulletins are applicable to the car you're looking at and check whether they've been done or not. And if not, it's not the end of the world, because you can of course get them done via a Porsche dealer. So the important thing, of course, outside of the normal checks that you might carry out when looking at a new car, or a used car, sorry to be specific, you know, is it as expected, the history, etc., is just to look for those service bulletins. But I think on the whole, the sentiment that I see online, the feedback that I get from people who get in this car, they love them. They really do, as do I. It's great, it's working really well, It's super versatile. A lot more content to come on this car, believe it or not. I've done a lot already. Do check out the previous videos. And there's just so much to say about this car because it's such an eye-opener. It's so great. So I hope that helps on this one. Some specific things to look out for here. I'll post a link to the service bulletin checkout place on Porsche where you can have a look and see what your car needs to have done, look at all the recall information. But yeah, still absolutely thoroughly recommended. Rather wonderful car indeed. So that is it for this one. Do stay safe, stay well. See you on the next one, and bye for now.